Kelly?
Can you hit record?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go
I
ahead,
was-
Ms. Wallace.
I was going over the 3 actions we're asking of the State Attorney General. 1, to conduct a thorough investigation of historic and present practices that led to and sustained the intolerable conditions in the Bronx. This investigation must produce a detailed, publicly available report, including recommendations for alleviation. 2, to require appropriate state and city agencies to reform policies and practices immediately that impose unsafe conditions on residents of the Bronx, such as inadequate fire service and building code enforcement. 3, to establish a long-term program for deep and wide reform of public policies and practices that adversely affect the Bronx disproportionately. So we ask the board to support this petition, and anyone who wants to circulate it can reach me at debwallace445@gmail.com. debwallace445@gmail.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deborah, for all your hard work on this. And we will take that up in committee. All right, thank you. Thank you very much for joining. That concludes our gallery session. Next is report from the Bronx Borough President.
Laura,
Yes,
I have my hand up.
regarding,
David, you're muted.
oh, I'm muted. I'm sorry, David. I think we're ready to move on to the Bronx
I'm
Borough
sorry.
President's office.
Laura, I have my
I was
hand up.
muted.
And we typically allow questions or comments of gallery presentations.
David, save it for committee, okay?
It's not part of the budget committee.
No, save it for whatever committee it has to do with. I'm gonna move on to the Bronx Borough President's office.
Laura,
David, I'm sorry, David. Please don't be out of order.
I am
need
not
to
out of
move
order.
on.
We always allow for this, always.
Report from the Borough President's office, please.
Laura, my hand is up.
I don't believe Ish is with us right now.
All right, then we have Councilwoman Perina Sanchez. I would like to welcome her. She's a new councilwoman to our district, and we were speaking before, and then I was cut off and I had to re-sign in. Councilwoman Sanchez, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
Great, great. The floor is yours, and welcome to Community Board 8.
Great. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the space. I just wanted to reintroduce myself as City Council member now that we are officially on board. So I'm Perina Sanchez, started on January 1st at midnight. I was like, yay. Very, very excited to be working with you all in this capacity. So I wanted just to, I know we're short on time always, and I want to be respectful. So I just wanted to share a few updates. So first and foremost, just completely, following the really great presentation that we just heard. We had another fire in District 14 over the weekend. It was over on Grand Avenue, which is not in CB8, it's in CB7, but it's very close to the boundary. We had 8 families displaced, over 30 individuals. Cause of the fire is still unknown, but to Ms. Wallace's point, I walked into that building and it was actually tenants who had not experienced a displacement from the fire, who were asking me to come into their unit and just showing me all of the definitely C-class violations in that building. So I want to support the work that you are doing, and thank you for that. And I look forward to collaborating with you on it. As some of you may know, I was appointed to be the City Council's chair for housing and buildings. And so fire safety, code enforcement, healthy housing is going to be one of the earliest topics that I will be taking up with my committee and relevant other committees in the council. This is a crucial topic. And I'm going to welcome so much feedback from members of this committee, from any members of the community on reforms that need to be in place to really make sure that, this is not about the good actors, this is about the bad actors, to make sure that the bad actors have consequences potential fines and penalizations for when they are not maintaining the code and when they are putting our neighbors at risk, as we have seen in the early part of this year. A third update on the Kingsbridge Armory, which is also just close to the boundary for the two community districts, but it will affect so many of you. I want you all to know that the Kingsbridge Armory is back in city jurisdiction. The developer team, the Kingsbridge National Ice Center, lost a suit in court, and EDC is back in control of the armory. And so we will be restarting those conversations with the community.
Somebody
You
mute.
know, I'm gonna be absolutely inviting all of you to participate in those conversations. We have a very, very good idea. I grew up, in District 14. I grew up walking by the armory as a kid. My brother did ROTC there when he was in high school. So we know that this space has been underutilized for far too long. And we have a very, very strong sense of the kinds of things that the community wants to see. So just looking forward to bringing that into fruition through a community-led process with all of you. Next is a quick update. So our District 14 is participating in participatory budgeting. We have finalized the ideas collection phase. We're doing kind of like a very light version, since usually you'll begin the outreach in July and you have all the way until February, until beginning of January to collect ideas. I only had 2 weeks as council member to collect ideas, but we hit the streets. We were on social media. We did as much as we could in terms of outreach, and we got some really good ideas. So I want you to know that right now what is happening is that the city agencies are vetting those ideas, and then we're going to move into vote week. And so there are a couple of ideas that are in CD8, particularly around Washington's Walk. So look forward to making sure that you all help us get out the vote, get out the word, so that, the real benefit and for me, the real reason that I want to do participatory budgeting is just to increase engagement in the community, to give folks a direct say in how we're spending money in the city of New York, and so folks can learn the process. So I'll drop some more information in the chat, but very, very excited, as you probably can hear from my voice, to be participating in participatory budgeting here. And so that's great. I'm sure Councilmember Dinowitz, who's on the line, I see, is going to mention this, but tomorrow afternoon, I believe it is at 4 p.m. Don't quote me, I'll put it in the chat. But the Bronx elected officials are gathering together, and we're doing one single information session on just the normal city council discretionary budgeting process. So if you know any nonprofits that serve our community, please tell them to please join. We've been getting out the word, but it's always helpful when they hear from you. And the last update, very quickly, is that my office is going to be opening soon. It's under construction. We're gonna have a kiddie corner. It's gonna be really great. But it's we're taking over the office that Cabrera had. So it's 2065 Morris Avenue. And the phone number is the same, 347-590-2874. And our email is district14@council.nyc.gov. So I'll put that in the chat as well. But hi, so glad to be working with you. There's a lot of work ahead, but I'm excited to have really great colleagues and a really active community. And I know that you all are dedicated. So thank you for everything that you do as volunteers on Community Board 8. And I'm always here. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Councilman Sanchez, it's very exciting that you are on the housing committee. Did you say, we're starting our budget process now. And when you spoke about enforcement and violations, we're going to be looking at those things, and we'll definitely be chatting with you on that. Very exciting to welcome you here tonight. I see two hands. I see David and Chuck. David, do you have a question for Councilwoman?
This does not relate to the council member's presentation. I will defer to later. Chuck?
Chuck, your hand is up.
I'm now unmuted. Madam Councilwoman, I was the Commissioner of Housing and Buildings in the bonfire of the vanities period, or at the end of it. Let me tell you something that ties directly to what the gallery session speaker spoke about. one of the things we successfully used in order to abate Tommy the Torch and the fires was to require that the fire department, when people were in station, would instead go and inspect buildings. As a result, every single building in the borough of the Bronx, at least in the South Bronx areas where the fires were raging, were the subject of attention beforehand. And within a matter of months, it cut back the number of fires. And so the job you have to do, if I may, one of them at least, is to make sure that the fire department goes back actively to doing what it does. It does it in parts of Manhattan. It doesn't do it in the Bronx to the degree it should. And if they did, many of these situations, for example, the fire door on the last big fire would probably have been caught if the building had been properly and timely inspected.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Murdler.
You're welcome.
Also
have
tell your
lots of
son I
expertise
said
here.
hello. I was on the board. I was the New York director of RPA when he was on the board. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, we also have Councilman Eric Dinowitz with us tonight. Eric?
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Councilwoman Sanchez. That's very exciting to say. Hi, everyone. So I'll be quick this evening. First, today, the City Council's Committee on Consumer and Worker Protections, they held a hearing on permanent outdoor dining plan. That was a hearing that lasted at least 8 hours, if it's not still going on. I was at the Land Use Committee last night. I know this is an issue that concerns the community board, a lot of people. So I am talking with the bill sponsors to make sure that the needs of District 11 are met. That includes Community Board 8. But subjects like the outdoor dining, that's really important to our community and our quality of life. So I encourage all of you to follow me on social media. It's at Eric Dinowitz NYC. That's Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, not TikTok. And the reason is in addition to all the other community events, I post about the hearing. So last night, for example, people wanted to know what it was. Right away, we posted the website with the text of the bill, the link with the agenda, and a link so that you could provide testimony at the hearing. So that's what I did last night. And if there are topics that the board cares very much about, I can post that specific information on social media. I also post about the stated meetings, and stated meetings are where we vote on legislation. So before and after each meeting, I'm going to share what will be voted on and what we did vote on. So it's really important to follow me on social media. At the next stated meeting, I'll be introducing a new piece of legislation. It deals with the 311 system. It's an effort to make it more efficient, assign workers better. It's a 311 app. That's the short version. So I'm very excited to introduce that legislation. My committee, the Higher Education Committee, that's what I chair. We're going to have a hearing coming up in the next couple of weeks regarding START and Math Start at CUNY. So stay posted for that while we finalize the schedule. Any of those subjects, anything dealing with the council, you can reach out to my office. We're always glad to provide you with information. So email me at dinowitz@council.nyc.gov, social media, or sign up for my newsletter, or do all of them at ericdinowitz.nyc/newsletter. We are also doing a budget process, a participatory budgeting process, where we are taking information from via a Google form. We're also going to be doing outreach events at different areas throughout the district to make sure that your voices are heard, and you can share with me the areas where you want your tax dollars prioritized for the budget process. Just a couple other things I want to mention. We have our monthly food giveaway for older adults at Vladeck Hall in the Amalgamated this Friday from 9 to 12. I think this is only the second or third time we're doing it, and we've already enrolled 30 clients in this free program during our first month. We encourage you to spread the word. This Friday, 9 to 12, free food, free groceries for older adults. And lastly, if you were fined by an agency, if it was toward a business, or for example, you can always reach out to my office to learn more about the hearing process. So the hearings and judgments usually fall under oath, the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings. which is the city's independent administrative law court. So the summons and hearing process, it is confusing. So make sure you reach out to my office for guidance so you don't miss out on appeals or procedures. So for example, we were able this week, we got at a small business on Riverdale Avenue through the entire process, and they lowered their fine from $1,600 to $700. And it's while it's still a fine, that's a significant decrease in the fine. And we want to work with all of you and any of the small businesses to help reduce any fines. Lastly, I know you'll be voting on a street co-naming tonight for Bill Stone, a good friend and former member of this board. And I just encourage all of the board members to vote yes on this street co-naming.
Thank you so much, Councilman. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Kira, is Captain Gervin from the 5-0 here?
Yes.
Great, great. Okay, so we'll move on to our report from the 50th Police Precinct. Captain?
Good evening, Ms. Balter.
Hi.
For the 28-day period, we don't have any murders or any kind of like violence like that. Rape is up to those identified subjects, and it's being handled by our Bronx Special Victims Unit, and they have probable cause to arrest. Robbery is flat at 10 versus 10 last year. Felony assaults are up a little bit, and that's mostly with our domestic violence, and we're handling that through arrests and counseling. Burglaries were up a little bit also, but the thing that affects, as I say every month here, unfortunately, grand larcenies and auto theft are the property crimes which are really affecting us here, and we're doing the best we can. Our anti-crime officers are working the overnight shifts in the neighborhoods of Kingsbridge and North Riverdale, as well as Fieldston. And they're working on preventing the theft of autos, stolen tires and rims, stolen catalytic converters, as well as vehicle accessories such as sensors and rear view mirrors. Side view mirrors on the cars. So we're doing well with that. We have a lieutenant, a sergeant, and 8 police officers assigned to detail that. In the 28-day period, we did have some shots fired in the 5-0 precinct on January 14th on 234th Street and Kingsbridge Avenue. There were some shots fired, 3 shots fired in the air by a subject. Good detective work by the squad here. They have a person of interest now. They don't have probable cause yet to make that arrest, but they are developing continuing leads, and they hope to make an arrest on that. On the 16th of January, we had a person shot in the leg after a dispute regarding a parking space over on Webb Avenue and Ames Place. Once again, some good work, good interview of witnesses, recovery of video of the crime and of the subjects. And we have probable cause to arrest on one of the subjects, and the second subject we're still working on developing probable cause, and arrests are pretty much imminent on that. That's the report, Ms. Balter.
Thank you. We had some incident this month with outside of Kennedy High School when students were leaving at the end of the day. There was some severe fights and fighting. It came up in our education committee. Any updates on your coverage at school dismissal?
At school dismissal, we'll have the YCO down there. That's Officer James and Officer Justin Rodriguez. They're down there at dismissal. The NCOs, Lita Perez and Officer Olivencia are there. Our regular patrol officers, as well as the supervisor, are in the vicinity. They patrol the area of Tibbet and 230 towards Broadway. The incident you speak about, that happened on January 14th, about 3:20 hours in the afternoon, Broadway and 230th Street. 2 students were leaving JFK and going to get picked up by one of their parents when they were accosted by a couple of kids from the school who are known to the victims, and some property was removed. Detective Woods of the detective squad here, he has the case. He has 2 of them identified, and we're looking to do a photo array. We just have to talk to our legal because they are juveniles, and he's working on that currently. But through the help of Officer James He was able to identify them by their first names, and they developed that information. There was another incident on January 24th at the JFK, where we had a former student go into got into the school and began to threaten both staff and our NYPD school safety officers. And that was on terroristic threats. He's a former student. We know who he is, and he's a frequent flyer as a juvenile. Our YCO, both YCOs, James and Rodriguez, have been in touch with his parents. They're unfortunately not interested in any kind of help or counseling, either through the school, social services, or the NYPD. So we're just going to go out and get him, take him off, and bring him to the Corp Council for the arrest of those terroristic threats.
Thank you. It's a real hot spot, and it's problematic and painful for the kids and the parents. A lot of stress, a lot of worry. So thank you for special attention to that area. Thank you. Chuck, I see your hand is up. Or is that from before, Chuck?
Best thing that ever happened to mute button on Myrtle. Captain, at the last meeting, I asked you what, if anything, is being done by the 5-0 precinct with respect to the double, triple, and total block parking on the Johnson Avenue area. There you have one side of the street totally covered with empty roadway restaurant facilities. Nobody ever sits in there in the winter, but they're there. And on the other side, you've got cars double parked, and in front of the empty facilities, you have them parked. Car cannot get through. This week, I saw a car scraped by another one. I haven't seen a police officer there yet.
Yes, we have one police officer that's specifically assigned to address community complaints about parking. That's Police Officer Kevin Casey. Whenever we have concern about parking or complaints from the community, or if we get something from the Community Board 8, he's the officer we send out to address those particular conditions.
But what you need to do is to have a sector car go through there and tag the cars that are triple parked. They have no place doing it. Neither does American Express, neither does Railway Express or any of the other companies. They have no right to do it.
Correct.
So tag them.
When we know they're there, we issue the citations for the blocking of it's double parking and impede vehicular traffic. I think they're the violations that the officers write.
All I can say to you is the situation has gotten no better. And I'll bet you if you count the number of tickets that were issued in that area over the course of the past month, there are not as many as you would want.
It's not about how many tickets we write. It's about correcting the condition.
All right.
We'll also, how about this? We'll also send up our community affairs officer, Mercedes Conejo here, as well as Rasha Jamshir. They're a team effort here. And they're over there on Johnson Avenue because we have a lot of mailbox fishing over there. And they're the ones who usually take care of the mailbox and cleaning them up and getting in touch with the postmaster. So we'll revisit that on both an educational level as well as an enforcement level.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll move on now to our chairperson's report. I'm going to ask everyone to refer to the executive committee minutes, please, and then we'll move on to our treasurer's report. Joy Privateer.
Hi, everyone. This is the treasurer's report for fiscal year 22 February. Sarah, can you?
Sure, I'm working on pulling it up now.
Okay.
Laura, your report was so fast. I didn't have it prepared on the screen. Okay, you should be seeing it now.
All right, the budget hasn't changed much from the previous month, and there have been no budget modifications. Taking a look at item 1, operating budget update, the change since the prior budget, the difference between the allocated and remaining, 120,812 for allocated and remaining 148,840 52 respectively. That is the increase occasioned by salaries paid and also cleaning services. Item 1.1, which is the itemized for other than personal services. The difference between this budget and the last budget really is code 600, and that increase to 5148 from the prior month's 3998. That was an increase occasioned by advertising expenses in the Riverdale Press, supplies from WB Mason, and also cleaning services. Just to note that we're waiting the final OMB approval. OMB is preparing the mayor's budget, and that obviously takes priority. Item 1.2, as I said, no budget modifications. Item 1.3, purchase order and accounts payable. The increase from January from 5693 to 6253. That's again for cleaning services. And just so everyone knows, the question came up before, you know, why the cleaning services? And again, that could be characterized as COVID cleaning, just extra sanitizing because of the circumstances that we're living in. And again, a note that because of a lag in processing between the FMS and the OMB, we still have to reconcile items that appear as encumbered. For item 1.4, the rent and the energy detail, obviously OMB pays for the rent expenses. They're not a part of the $270,000 budget, rounding off, but the rent has been paid. And again, we have to deal with a lag in processing. And I just want to add a couple of notes. There is the PEG program, the program to eliminate gaps, which is a city initiative to cut spending across agencies for 3%. We haven't heard anything from the city in terms of implementing that, but we do have a budget. We have a cushion for personal services of approximately $30,000. We have the budget for $234,334, and we're projected to spend $204,480. So that results in about a $30,000 cushion. And I would like to extend thanks to Dio, who I believe is on the call. She was so gracious in indulging my text messages, and we had a couple of conversations with also Kira on the line. She has just been wonderful, and Kira, your support and encouragement has been very, very appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our new treasurer. I see a hand, Rosemary. You have a question?
Yes, I got a little confused between executive and now the PEG program, just so I understand, the OMB is attempting or wants to cut the budget, this budget fiscal 22, rather than anticipating for next budget, the cut. That I just want to understand. The cut is for this fiscal year or anticipatory to next fiscal year? That's, I didn't understand that. Yeah.
Let me just say that OMB hasn't reached out to community boards at this juncture. We're just, it's gone out to, you know, in general to everyone, to all the agencies. It hasn't come down to us, so we don't have those details. But we're anticipating it because the last time there was a PEG, I think they came to us twice regarding budget. So we're just saying it's out there. It's in the newspapers about the PEG, and agencies have been asked to cut 3%.
And that's my only question.
Right.
This fiscal year and next
No,
fiscal
no,
year. That's
May
my
I
only question.
answer?
Sure.
Yes.
Rosemary,
Mhm.
sure. So there's been, articles floating around that when the mayor started, he's proposing a PEG in all city agencies, I believe for next fiscal year, starting in
Next.
July.
Okay,
Again,
you.
nothing has come down to us, so it may not even happen. I think we all just got it from the news, but I believe it's for the next fiscal year.
Thank you, Kira. Next, that makes a difference. This was your next. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the district.
Laura, I'm sorry, RF is Bob Fanuzzi. I know you had
Oh,
that
I was,
question.
you know what? Bob, go ahead. Bob, are you muted?
Laura, go ahead. I am muted. That was from an old question for the commander, and I'll take
Okay,
it up.
I'm sorry. Okay. RF, I didn't recognize that though. Okay, seeing no further hands. Kira, go right ahead.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Let me pull up my report. Sorry for my lag tonight. Borough President's Office is accepting community board applications for new members through March 4th. The application can be found on our website as well as the Borough President's website. I do know we have a few of those applicants here tonight. If you are applying to the community board, please send me an email tomorrow. I have record of the attendance, and Laura and I will be happy to sign your application, saying that you attended a meeting. I also just wanted to thank the 50th Precinct for working closely with us on different community issues. Residents are urged to continue to call 311 or 911 in case of an emergency. I'll just report really quickly that the Bronx District Managers happily met with the new commissioner of the Community Affairs Unit for the mayor. It was a great meeting, very positive, and I believe we'll be getting a lot of support from that CAU unit, on different initiatives and programs in our district. And that's all. Please refer to the executive committee minutes for a more detailed report.
Thank you, Kira. Thank you. David, is your hand up?
Yes.
Or-
Kira, quick question. Can you check with Tom Lacania on the applications as to, under the circumstances, whether we still need to get a notarization of the last page of our application? It's very difficult to get a notary these days.
I will check and get back to the board.
Okay. Seeing no further hands, report from the New York City Department of City Planning. Anyone here from City Planning? Not seeing anyone. So, Rob, can you do the roll?
Okay. Sylvia Alexander,
Present.
Constance Barnes Watson,
Present.
Bob Bender,
Here.
Kelly Buford,
Present.
Chris Calhoun,
Present.
Joy Campbell Privateer,
Present.
Sebastian Chitaleppoli, Courtney Dostis Galvin,
Present.
Lisa Dow,
Present.
Margaret Della,
Present.
Margaret Donato,
Present.
Paul Ellis,
Present.
Diamaris, Stanya Bell. Saw her.
I thought I saw her.
Yeah, I saw her. Come back. Moses.
Present.
Uh-huh. Bob Fanuzzi,
I'm here.
Nick Fazio,
Present.
Steve Fruit, David Gelman,
Present.
Rosemary Ginty,
Here,
Julia Gomez,
Here.
Ed Green,
Present.
I'm present. Osvaldi Jimenez, Myra Joyce,
Present.
Bob Kaplan,
Here.
Chuck Merdler.
Yeah.
Okay. Ted Morris, Omar Murray,
Present.
Dan Paternock,
Present.
Tracy Pardo, Tracy Pardo, I saw her earlier.
Oh, I'm present.
Okay, okay. Karen Pesh. Karen Pesh. Rita Proctor-Lowe. Rita? No.
You know, she
Julie.
called me and said
Yeah,
Present.
she's,
I'm
oh,
here.
she's
I
present.
think
Okay,
I was
she's-
muted.
Okay. Julie Reyes,
Present.
Georgia Santiago. Ramdat Singh,
Present.
Laura,
Present.
Camelia Tepelis,
Present.
Deb Travis,
Present.
Stephen Vasquez, Stephen Vasquez, I saw him. Sergio Villaverde,
Present. Here.
Marty Wolpoff.
Present.
Okay, going back to pick up some. Let's see, Stephen Fruit, no? Osvaldo Jimenez, Ted Morris, Karen Pesh, Georgia Santiago, Stephen Vasquez. Okay.
All
Oh,
right.
I
thank
see
you.
Stephen Vasquez there, so he must have
Maybe he was
stepped
muted.
away. Okay.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. All right, so we'll begin our committee reports.
Laura?
Yeah.
My hand is up from before we do the committee reports. I'm speaking as a member of the community board, not
All
as a
right, go ahead.
chair.
All right, David.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I am a member of the community board, and like all members of the community board, we have always allowed for question and comment on the gallery session. And it's inappropriate for you to have the district manager mute my mic in the process. Having said that, last month I brought up the question of that in the gallery, something was said that I didn't believe to be true. I asked for the letter that was referenced to be shared with the board. We did get the copy of this letter, and the letter was not from the board of directors of the co-op. It was from a member of the board. It did not indicate that it was coming from the board, and it said nothing about removing the sidewalks across the street. It only mentioned their displeasure with the design. And this was stated again in this gallery session. That's all I have to say on the topic. We can move on to the committee reports.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with Bob Panuzzi, Environment and Sanitation.
Two issues to bring to your attention from our last, when one concerns building, the other concerns energy. Any day now, DEP will announce new stormwater construction rules that will change the way that buildings are approved and built. There are two issues, two parts of this. Okay, they're called Unified Stormwater Rules. DEP will now require any building that is more than 20,000, sits on more than 20,000 square feet of soil and introduces more than 5,000 feet of impervious space, square feet, okay, to have new restrictions on water management during construction, okay? After construction is when it gets even more interesting, because those buildings that are greater than 20,000 feet and introduce more than 5,000 square foot of impervious surface to our community will now be subject to a design manual that introduces lots of new requirements for how to handle water. This is meant to introduce more green space into our building design. And you've all heard about green roofs, but as you see in my minutes, they should be there tomorrow. DEP is desperate to introduce more water retention, detention, and green space into our buildings. So for those of you who are keeping track of buildings in the queue, so to speak, especially following land use issues, I'm told that anything that has already received a sewer line connection approval will go forward under old rules. Anything that is still in DOB application phase or has not received its stormwater capture plan, its water management plan, will be subject to the new rules. So this will affect these many buildings going up in our community that's been affected by flooding and by overbuilding, are two big twin issues in this area. So I think the community board and especially the land use is going to be affected, impacted by these new stormwater rules. And I hope that DEP gives all the support to community boards for how to enforce these. The second issue I wanted to bring to everybody's attention is that NYSERDA has awarded a contract to a series of companies to build renewable energy facilities and transmission lines from Canada to Queen. And these new transmission lines will impact those of us who live in Community District 8 along the river, the Harlem River and the Hudson River. Starting in 2025, you will see barges burying lines underneath the Harlem and Hudson River. We received a presentation by the companies doing this work that have been awarded the state contracts, and it will not make landfall in this district, but our Hudson River views will be impacted during construction phase. And there is lots of concern about environmental impacts on our waterways during constructions. Those are two big issues. At our next meeting, we'll be discussing not just budget, but the new DEP power structure and the completion of the JPR construction. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do, Bob. We're moving on to health hospitals.
I'm sorry, Laura, my hand is up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dan, go right ahead.
So Bob, I had a question for you. You know, at the last meeting, you know, we saw the plans for the DEP Putnam Trail, which included I guess what's now a large DEP project for the goodness, I'm blanking right now, for the open, oh goodness, I don't know how I'm blanking on it. Anyway, one of the things that came up was the discharge line. And we had spoken about this from the JPR reservoir over to what appeared to be daylighting. I apologize, the daylighting project. I don't know how I forgot that. Anyway, there was a discharge line that was going into what appeared to be one of the sewer systems.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, I had never seen before. And I know that you were going to look into it. And I was wondering if you had gotten any information about that discharge pipe.
Dan, not yet. And there's been a change in project management over at DEP on that. I will put that to DEP for our next meeting and have the answer in February.
Yep. Yeah, no, the other thing I was going to say, and I don't know if Laura could help out here, but has this come up at CFMC, Laura, at the meetings?
There hasn't been a CFMC meeting in 3 years.
What?
The Croton filtration.
What?
The Croton filtration monitoring meetings.
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't been one called.
And I'm sorry, you were saying how long?
For a couple of years. I'm not sure.
I think it's been 2 years about, Laura.
So are you working with the members to call a meeting?
No.
I'm sorry.
Effie was doing that.
Effie doesn't do that. It's generally driven by the chairs of the boards in speaking
Well,
with
it seems to have, why don't I get back to you on that? On the status of that, because they have not met. A meeting has not been called.
It's, especially if Bob Fanuzzi is now talking about JPR construction coming to an end, it's a pretty important body, which was created by the city council.
Dan, I understand. I'll get
Dan-
back to you
Dan-
on that.
Yeah, and as far as the construction, it's actually at the reservoir, and I wanted to know more about that. We just got the notification on that. We may have to amend our agenda because I would like to know about what happened. This was approved by the community board, gatehouse reconstruction and deconstruction, remember? And there is new fencing around the reservoir, so we just heard about that today, so we may have to get a look-see at that very soon. And Dan, I hope.
It's even more of a reason, and Bob, I know you were on that committee, I was on that committee, Rosemary was on that committee, more of a reason for CFMC to be meeting with all these things that you're talking about.
Today's notice from DEP was quite excited because they have finished all the gatehouse work and they finished, it's this huge project. I'll forward you the email that we got today to you tomorrow, Dan, and I'll circle back with you on that other. Okay?
Thank you.
Omar, Health, Hospitals and Social Services.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So at our January meeting, we had two discussions. One was from the Department of Health and one was from Live Our New York. The Live Our New York is a nonprofit organization that specializes in organ transplant. So we spoke a little bit about that. And for that, I want to thank Tanya for connecting Live Our New York with our committee. It was very informative. The Department of Health spoke briefly about the rise in COVID-19, especially amongst kids. And we pressed a lot for more testing sites within CB8, and they stated that they would be pushing for more testing in CB8. We also spoke about the possibility of a new variant that may arise, which still concerns many health professionals. Hopefully this is the end game, but we don't know, so we keep our hands crossed. I do want to encourage everyone to get, the federal government is sending out 4 test kits per household. So I do want to encourage everyone to go to covidtest.gov and sign up for these test kits. They may be very helpful to you. Our next meeting will be tomorrow night, and we will be discussing COVID-19 and the youth. So we will be having a medical doctor from New York Presbyterian to come and speak about the effects of COVID-19 on the youth. So please come tomorrow night. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Moving on, housing. I know Ted is not on tonight. So I guess we'll move on. He had a wonderful meeting recently with the fire department on fire prevention. Land use, Chuck.
I keep turning off the sound. We have 2 matters to present to you tonight. The first one was referred to earlier, and that is the resolution unanimously adopted by land use, asking, and it's up on the board now, asking that the members of the city council secure a layover of any vote on the proposed legislation relating to outdoor dining, sidewalk cafes, until the committee and the board have had a chance to review the legislation and comment on it. Because under one interpretation of it, as I understood, just a synopsis of that we've seen, community boards were not to have any meaningful role. And I know that Councilman Dinowitz is in the process of trying to get that broadened and returned to a 60-day or 45-day opportunity to be heard. Because it is something the board, one way or another, has indicated an interest in. So that's the first, and I would ask, if you have no objection, if that could be placed before the board for a vote this evening, and I would move it.
Okay, so we'll call the question. Is there any discussion? Okay, raise your hand if you are opposed to this resolution, please. If you are abstaining. Okay, so it is deemed unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Done. And it will be sent to the city council, the people who held the hearings today and our elected officials.
I do see Margaret Ella's hand up. Margaret, was that for the vote or it came up a little
Yeah.
after?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, it was, it was a quick vote. I was scrambling, so I abstain. If you could just mark that, please.
Sure.
Okay. And Camelia, your hand is up. Are you abstaining as well?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I just got dropped off the Zoom as Chuck was saying what are we voting on. Also, just to share that I actually attended the full 9 hours of the hearing that finished at like 6:59 before this meeting, and multiple community boards raised the same issue, which I believe, if I caught Chuck's idea entirely, is extending the time allowed for community boards to present comments or feedback from 30 to 45 days. I'm not sure what I'm voting on. If you wouldn't mind sharing again.
If I may, all you're voting on is to ask the members of the council to allow enough time for community boards, particularly ours, to take a look at it and decide whether they're for it or against it. You haven't seen the bill and neither have I.
And by enough time, we mean?
However long, how long does it take them to get you a copy of the bill?
Yeah, I don't know. That's vague for me. I'm abstaining. Thank you so much for the explanation.
Okay. Chuck.
Second item is simply by way of report.
Marty's hand is up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Marty, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I still support the resolution, but I did get to read the text, and I did sit in this afternoon to based on what Eric said. There were hours of testimony. I only listened in for an hour and a half. So just note that the community boards do have a say based on the text. The concern immediately, and I heard lots of community boards speak, there is a number of concerns. I wrote a memo to land use this evening, a chance to look at, but there is a major concern. We will have 30 days. Many boards said that when the floods open up and we have 30 days to respond, everyone who has a permit now will reapply, and everyone who wants to start one will apply and will be deluged. And how we be able to have hearings within a 30-day period for all of those seems to be highly unlikely. So that is one of the issues. But the last comment is DOT, who is the lead agency, put this whole thing together. They told from what I heard, they told the session in the morning that they did not seek community board or public input yet. So what's written is without input. But theoretically, there will be hearings following now.
Thank you.
There are a lot of issues raised, a lot of issues.
I just want to make sure that all of you have a chance to look at it and decide what you want to do. I don't care how you come out at the end, although I have my own strongly held views. The second thing is something that I would call to your attention now. It clearly is going to be a major issue for some of you, and that is the proposed construction on Riverdale Avenue of either a 14 or 15-story building. We had a meeting last night. A representative of STAG was there. I thought we got answers to most of the questions that were posed at this stage, but there are an awful lot of questions open, and this will be continued for months to come, I'm sure. That is my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Chuck. Moving on to Marty, Law, Rules, and Ethics.
Yeah, thank you. just three things. One is a reminder again that minutes are supposed to be within 2 weeks of the meeting. They need to be published, put on the site. But I appoint again that the OML specifically says when practicable. So nobody's head is being put under a guillotine if you have it on the 26th day instead of the 24th day or whatever, or 14th day and 15th day. But try to get them in and we get them published as quickly as possible. Community, we're going to meet on the 14th, Valentine's Day. Anyone who is so minded and wants to celebrate St. Valentine's Day with the LRE committee is welcome to join us. Two issues will be discussed, among others. One is that we've discussed it for months and hopefully we'll come to some kind of decision at this next meeting about rules for committee meetings. Laura started tonight with a concern, as has been expressed by many, that our meetings have gone on for just too long. And we need to find one of the set of rules, I believe, needs to look at how we schedule time and use it wisely. And finally, an issue I raised with the committee to be discussed at the next meeting is I received a notification from the Conflict of Interest Board about fining a community board member $1,500 because that board member spoke on behalf of the agency for which she works. And as a result, she violated the city charter. And as I say, was fined $1,500. I wrote to COIB because I was having a problem and still have a problem separating what it means to speak on behalf of an agency versus declare and discuss, but don't vote. So if there are people here who declare I have a conflict and discuss it and don't vote, I don't see how that's different than everyone knows you disclose you belong to an agency and speak on behalf of the agency. I mean, that the key is representation, but I don't know where that line is. And I want to make sure anyone who's in that situation doesn't cross it. So please join us and happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Thank you, Marty. Moving on to Parks and Recreation, Ramdod.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'll keep my report very brief. On behalf of the Parks and Rec Committee, I would like to congratulate Commissioner Iris on being named the first Deputy Commissioner for the Parks Department. I'm looking forward to working with the next Commissioner. Our next meeting is February 23rd, where we'll be discussing budget. And please refer to our minutes on everything we discussed at our Parks and Rec meeting in January.
Thank you, Ramdod. Yeah, I just sent Iris a wonderful congratulatory note today, but it'll be, like I said, bittersweet because we will miss her so much. Rosemary, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. I just like to comment on that meeting. Great meeting, Ramdod. It was wonderful. I did read the minutes, and it says that I mentioned that there should be a process for following up with Department of Parks. We're talking about CSX project, and possibly have a community meeting model. I'm not sure what that means, but that's what the minutes say. Yes, of course, I endorse that, but I need to add, and I would like my thoughts to be recorded in some board minutes. And that is the following, very simply, and I do this on behalf of the entire community. I believe that there should be, and I suggested, a schedule with 3 times a year, 4 times a year, quarterly, whatever, to have the Department of Parks come to the Parks Committee and tell us where they stand with the design for the CSX project. That's all. There should be some set, 4 times a year, quarterly. That's not a big thing. And I would like that stated someplace. Anyway, that is my hope that that gets followed. And I ask this on behalf of the entire community, not me, the entire community. Thank you.
Ramdot?
Sorry, Rosemary, for that typo. I will edit the minutes and this will be ready for our Parks Committee meeting. Sorry about the mishap.
Great. Okay, we'll move on to public safety.
Good evening,
Ed.
everyone. Hi. Okay, so Public Safety Committee had one resolution, and it was for a renewal application for a full liquor license for Riverdale Steakhouse located at 5700 Riverdale Avenue. There were no issues as far as the 50th precinct were concerned, and the Public Safety Committee unanimously approved this application. And I'm just looking at it up there. Yep. So I guess we're ready to take a vote on this?
Yeah, sure. We'll call the question. Is anyone, if you are opposed, please raise your hand. I don't see any hands. Anyone abstaining, please raise your hand. Okay, so that's unanimously approved.
Okay, and I would refer the board to our minutes. We had a terrific meeting. We had Homeland Security there, and our next meeting is going to be February 5th, Tuesday, February 15th at 7 p.m. All are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Deb, traffic and transportation.
Good evening, everybody. We just have one resolution for tonight, although it's a really great one. Kira, do you have it to put up? This is regarding the co-naming of Hudson Manor Terrace and West 237th via intersection in honor of Bill Stone. I did not have the pleasure of serving with Bill Stone, but I was very moved by the number of folks who came out to speak in favor of this. I want to make sure to give time to anybody on the board who would like to speak in favor of this. So the resolution is simply an acknowledgement of the contribution he's made to our community. I'll highlight that he served our community as an active member of Community Board 8 for nearly 40 years. And during his tenure, chaired the Health and Hospitals and Library Committees and was treasurer, vice chair, and served 3 terms as chair of Community Board 8. Additionally, he served on the board of directors of AHRC and NYC, providing much needed services for people with disabilities for nearly 50 years, eventually leading that organization as president for 3 of those years. And so therefore, this resolution supports the co-naming of the corner of Hudson Manor Terrace and West 237th Street in honor of Bill Stone. So I will open it up to the floor if anybody would like to say some words.
Marty, go ahead, and followed by Bob.
Many of us knew Bill for many, many years as a colleague on the board and through the community and through all the activities he was involved in. And I 100,000%, whatever number that is, support this idea and to memorialize Bill in a way which he deserves. I also note that I saw earlier that his widow, Dorothy, is on the line, and she too deserves recognition for the work they've done together. So I support this.
Thank you. Thank you. Bob Bender.
Yeah, the same from me. I mean, those of us who were on the board with Bill and knew him knew that he was a lovely person, and he put a lot of time into the community board over the years. He had a son who was severely disabled, and Bill was very active in disability issues, as the resolution says. And I think it's altogether appropriate to honor him in this way.
Thank you. We have Rosemary and Bob Fanuzzi and Dan.
Okay, I have to tell you, I don't even know what to say about Bill Stone. He meant a lot to me. I was chair for 3 years, and let me tell you, his guidance, his wisdom, his leadership, meant everything to me. I am so sorry for those of you on the board who are new, who didn't know Bill Stone. I am so sorry that you didn't know him. He was a guide and a leader and full of wisdom in the best possible sense. And let me tell you, he was a no-nonsense person. He did not come here to get the congeniality award. He was no nonsense. He told you what had to be done. He was full of wisdom and full of guidance. I will miss him terribly. I think about him often, and I have to stop because I really do miss him. Okay, I totally support this. I wish we could do more, but if this is what we can do, it's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Bob Fanuzzi and then Dan.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Bill Stone was a giant in his field of mental health advocacy, and he wore it really lightly. Those of us who served alongside him were always taken aback by his humility and his breadth of knowledge, and it comes from his personal experience. Just a remarkable person. Like Rosemary, I was the beneficiary of his superb counsel. He was a cherished mentor to me during my years of chair of the board, and always the honest broker, honest, candid, what was right, what was wrong, a real North Star for our community board. And I also had the privilege of meeting his family sitting Shiva, and I just can't say enough how much this will grace our community to have this co-naming for William Stone. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Dan.
Bill Stone was a good person who enjoyed public service, and that came through in everything that he did. I too benefited from Bill's wisdom and guidance on many issues that came across our committees over the years, specifically traffic and transportation. Bill was always there to help talk me through issues. This is a great honor. I can't support it enough. As to the resolution, Deb, perhaps as a friendly amendment, can we add the names of the organizations that have sponsored them to the resolution, just so that we have those in the records?
Sure.
Thank you.
Deb?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
And I don't need the names right now, but if
Right.
we
I
can
have
just
a
add- I
file
know
and
this has got to come back. So
And
if
there were
we can
many
just-
individual letters as well, but no, that's very
Yeah, I
appropriate.
think that's appropriate. Yeah, no,
Thank
thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I didn't have Bill Stone to help me as chair, but he certainly did his best to encourage me to run for chair. And what was special about Bill is he was an old timer when I was new 28 years ago, and he would sit next to me at meetings, and he always had a big smile, and he was always so warm and helpful to the new members. And I just want to echo what everyone has said tonight, how this is a privilege to have the street naming, and I'm very grateful that Dorothy and his daughter Linda, brought this forward. So without any further ado, let us take the vote on the resolution as amended, will be amended. Is there anyone opposed? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone abstaining? So unanimously approved, and we will have a second vote next month because the protocol is that these get voted twice. Okay.
Excuse me, Laura, I'm sorry. Margaret, did you raise your hand for abstain? Margaret Della?
I
Okay,
didn't
so we
see
have one
any hand.
abstention.
Oh, okay.
Margaret, can you confirm that? I see you shaking your head, but I just.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And I refer everyone to the minutes of January 20th for any updates on the Traffic and Transportation Committee. Our next meeting is February 17th.
Okay, thank you, Deb. Youth, Julia?
Good evening, everyone. I refer you to our minutes from December. We did not have a meeting in January due to the Martin Luther King holiday. Our February meeting is going to be on Thursday due to, I believe it's I'm sorry, it's one of the presidents. I get it confused. Come join us. We're a lot of fun. See my minutes and have a great evening.
Thank you, Julia. Aging, Dan.
Thank you, Laura. So we did not have a meeting in January. Our next meeting is Valentine's Day, February 14th at 4:00 p.m. We do have a speaker from Live On New York. They're coming to talk to the community and the committee about reframing the aging population, specifically how folks perceive of older adults within our community. So again, February 14th, 4 p.m. Hopefully you guys can make it out there. Thank you.
Good. Okay, moving on, budget, David.
Yes, thank you, Laura. I wasn't on for the first 30 seconds of the call, so I didn't get to comment on the lack of a budget hearing, but I assume that Laura, excuse me, or Kira explained to everybody the fact that OMB did not, as they're supposed to, get us their comments on our submissions for FY23 by January 15th. And as I noted about 2 weeks ago, I didn't think they would before tonight either. And as it turns out, we found out just recently that they are going to be getting those comments to us, I think, by February 15th. And we have been given another month to get our responses in, you know, according to the city charter rules. And so I think that's fair and reasonable. So that's FY23. You heard comments earlier about FY22 and the PEG, the program to eliminate the gap. The other thing is now, as I've been saying for the last couple of months, we are gearing up in the FY24 cycle, starting July 1st of 23, going through June 30th, 24. And in January, each committee was to be starting to solicit ideas from their members. This month in February, each of the committees should be coming up with their list of capital budget priorities and expense budget priorities and putting them to paper, so to speak. There should be 2 lists coming out of this month's committee meetings. In March, the committee should individually prioritize those 2 lists, and then in April come to agreement on the final prioritization. It's very important that this happened this month. I've looked at a couple of the agendas that have gone out already, and a couple of them say nothing about the budget. I encourage you to make sure that you have it so we don't have a fire drill in March and April. And Madam Chair, I encourage you to review those agendas and remind the chairs to make sure that happens in February and in March and in April. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So we will have that budget hearing in March.
I'm sorry, I should have said that. You're quite right.
Yeah. Economic development, Nick.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair. Our last meeting was Thursday, January 27th. Please refer to our minutes, which should be out shortly. We had a great conversation with Riverdale Main Street Alliance, SBS, ERU Emergency Response Unit Director Bernadette Nation, and Kirsty Miranda from Miranda Wrights Bookstore gave this month's small business report. We are still working with SBS and the merchants on Bailey Avenue to get them back into their storefronts. I want to thank Ms. Nation from SBS, KRBC, Frederick Klein from Assemblymember Dinowitz's office, and all the elected officials for their support. And we will keep you posted, but we hope to get our businesses open again and get their staffs back to work as soon as possible. Rolando Gonzalez, the legal aid lawyer that was procured through SBS with Ms. Nation's help, is helping those businesses on Bailey Avenue, and he has perused the leases for the businesses on 6661 Broadway. There is not much he can do for them at this point, as per our conversation, until they get an official notice that the demolition clause has been triggered. And that won't happen until they get legal notice from the landlord. Once that happens, they'll have 180 days to either fight the evictions, find new locations, given of course our low vacancy rate. That's going to be difficult. But again, we just want to thank SBS and Mr. Gonzalez for trying to help our merchants, especially those that are facing displacement on 6661 Broadway. The Entrepreneur Assistance Center will have their first graduation ceremony next month. Congratulations to the graduates. And I want to thank Randy Norfleet and Damaris Vargas of the Women's Business Outreach Center for running this tremendous program. New cohorts of classes will begin in March, at the end of March. There are two cohorts, the Bronx and Harlem. The Harlem one is in Spanish, the Bronx is in English. But Randy has said that we can refer anyone that prefers a Spanish or English speaking class to either one of the courses, so that it doesn't, someone from the Bronx is not precluded from applying to the Harlem cohort. And if anybody has any entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs or people that are just in business within the last 3 years, they're eligible to apply, and we're here to help them with their application process if they need it. There is no February meeting. Our next meeting will be March 24th. We will have an update on the Bailey Avenue situation, hopefully. We have a couple of merchants along the Sedgwick Avenue corridor interested in giving the small business report. So I'm hoping to get at least one of them to confirm, and we'll get a report from that area of our district. And we have community member, economic development committee member, Asvali Jimenez, will be giving us a presentation on the 504 loan program. And anyone who's an up and coming business or an established business that doesn't know about 504, you really need to come to our March meeting to learn more. And that's my report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Great. Sylvia, Education, Libraries, and Cultural Affairs.
I refer you to my minutes. I unfortunately made a mistake on my January minutes. The manager of the Van Cortlandt branch got in touch with me. He spoke about in-person programs and that they were being curtailed because of the pandemic. And I assumed that the library was closed, but it really isn't. And he wants everyone to know that the library is open, and hopes that everyone will come out and take books and do what they normally do in libraries. They do have programs on the computer, and also hope they are utilized. My next meeting is on February 22nd.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you. Next up, Special Committee on Hudson River Greenway, Bob Bender.
Yes, thank you. We're still planning to meet sometime in the spring, either April or May. I will know by next month, which is the more likely month, but we definitely will be having a spring meeting.
Thank you. Special Committee on Racial Equity, Margaret.
Good evening. SCREE met last week with Northwest Bronx Clergy and Community Coalition, and they presented on some of the most pressing issues that they see from their platform and their work within the community, and that's on housing, land use, and youth. And they would love to stay involved and be as active as they are with Community Board 8, as they are with Community Boards 7 and 6. So we hope to continue that relationship, but it was a great meeting. Just a reminder to some standing committee chairs that we have extended the deadline again for the list of activities on what respective committees have done to advance racial equity within the community board. We ask for that by Monday, February 14th.
Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. Special Committee on Veteran Services, Sergio.
Good evening. I refer you to my minutes. We had a very good meeting, a further conversation on Memorial Grove. There will be follow-up. Our meeting will be announced. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion of Executive Committee meeting minutes of February 2nd.
Laura, if I may.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention at the end of my report on the budget, particularly for the new chairs, if you have any questions about how to go about developing your budget priorities, please don't hesitate to contact me. That's all. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Okay, where were we? The executive committee minutes of February 2nd. Are there any comments? I don't see any hands. Approval of board meeting minutes of January 11th. Don't see any hands. So why don't we just vote on the minutes? Is there anyone opposed to the minutes of January 11th? Please raise your hand. Is there anybody abstaining on the minutes? Okay, so everything passed unanimously. Miscellaneous business. Is there any miscellaneous business? Seeing no hands and seeing no further business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A second. A second.
Second.
Okay, then we are adjourned. It is 8:30. We get a gold star. And I want to wish
Thank you. That's
everybody
great.
a wonderful night and good health and see you next time. Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.